My name is Brian Van Hook, and I'm Regional Director of the Florida Small Business Development Center in FIU. And I just want to thank Orlando for organizing another good webinar focused on getting back on track. As you guys see, we have a rock star panel, with the exception of Raju. No, I'm just kidding. Basically, you guys are going to really learn a lot today. And obviously, if we can help you guys from SBDC's end, you know, we have a team of really great consultants such as Raju that can help you in a variety of ways. You know, just count on us. And with that, I'll turn it over to Orlando because you guys don't want to hear me talk. You want to hear Orlando and the panelists. So just thanks again, and you know, let us know if we can help out.
Yeah, and thank you, Brian. And as Brian said and mentioned, a lot of businesses right now, what they need is support, need help, and so forth. So if you are not connected to the SBDC, please make sure that you do register. And if you are, please make sure that you use the talent of the many consultants that they have within the SBDC. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. You're going to be in for a really great treat. I've had an opportunity and privilege to work with all of these amazing people that you see on screen right now. I've worked with Raju, Julio, and Karen on numerous projects and numerous topics of conversation and so forth. All of them are SBA Emerging Leaders graduates. They actually went through different years. Karen, I know it's a 2016 graduate. Raju graduated in 2017, and Julio graduated last year from the SBA Emerging Leaders Program. And as we started looking at everything we're going through, one of the things that we realized that we needed to figure out a way to assist and help other small businesses that were going through this phase of the pandemic, and how could we actually assist and help them to get back on track. So without further ado, we normally talk about, you know, turning over the stage, but I think today what we're going to do is turn over the screen. So I'm going to allow them to actually briefly talk about themselves, what they do. So Julio, let's go ahead and let's start with you.
Yeah, my name is Julio Lopez, Metacorp Technologies and IT for Education. Basically, we provide IT professional services and support primarily to K-12 education and also to small businesses in Miami-Dade County and Broward County. And good morning to everyone. Happy to be here. Thank you, Orlando.
Raju.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My past takes me a little bit longer. I had my own business. I was ranked top 100 in my industry. And before I sold, I joined the SBDC in 2018. And in between selling the business and joining SBDC, I was a turnaround consultant and access to capital type of, those were my roles during that period. And joining the SBDC, that's what I primarily do, is access to capital and try to figure out how to get you financing throughout the, throughout the life cycle of the business.
Thank you, Raju. So Karen.
Karen.
Hi, good morning. My name is Karen Vieira. I am the owner of the Med Writers, and we are a group of mostly scientists and doctors turned writers, and we do a lot of marketing writing and technical writing in the pharmaceutical, healthcare, supplement, and health and wellness space. We're the go-to if you need something written quickly, effectively, and if you want to get to the top of Google. That's kind of our specialty.
All right, and thank you very much. And for those of you that are actually, watching from home or from your business, we've got the Q&A within the actual Zoom program that you can actually ask questions. We went a little bit over last time we did this with the trim the fat marketing during COVID-19. So we are going to try to get to all of your questions as quickly as possible. But the overall goal is that we want to make sure that aside from us coming in and asking and answering your questions, we want to go ahead and ask you some questions. So as a business, now that you're ready to get back on track, where does your business currently stand during COVID-19? And these are some questions that you actually need to take an in-depth look inside your own business and answer those. How difficult has it been to get back on track? How did COVID-19 affect your overall sales? Did you already start to pivot your business? Is that something you were thinking about? How much are you spending on marketing, or has the spending stopped? Do your customers know you're still open, or that your business will open? And how many of you have actually started changing your mindset and started looking for other opportunities? I don't know if the panelists wanted to share any other questions before we go ahead and dive into, but Karen, go ahead. I know you unmuted yourself.
The most important one in this list for my business has been, how much are you spending on marketing, or has the spending stopped? So for a lot of business owners, it's super tempting right now to just cut all expenses and just stop spending on everything. What I did right now is I ramped up my marketing budget. I'm actually spending 2 or 3 times what I normally spend on marketing. And the reason is, I don't want to have to let anybody go. I don't want to not meet any of my goals for the year in terms of revenue. So in my industry, at least, people are still working. There are still healthcare, pharmaceutical, biotech, medical device, supplement businesses that are thriving. And my business is B2B. So I know that some of my clients, not all, we have some clients like that are rehabilitation facilities, drug and alcohol rehab facilities. They weren't taking in new patients, and some of them, had to close or whatever because of so many people in close proximity, whether it's essential or not, whatever. So a lot of those companies stopped spending on marketing. So what does that mean for my business? I need to replace those clients with other businesses that are spending. There are tons of businesses, for example, in my industry, a hot topic right now is creating these rapid testing kits. Tons of businesses in the biotech field creating these test kits. They need marketing. So what did we do? Pivot. We don't necessarily market right now to the rehab facilities that we've written thousands of articles for over the last decade. Now we're looking at who's creating test kits, what do they need written, and how can we help them? Just an example, but this is a time where my marketing budget has gone through the roof for good reason, because we need to continue business and we need to realize who's still working, who's still spending, and reach out to them and let them know we're available to help them.
Right. And I think that that's one of the main things that within the businesses that we've been asking them, ask yourself these important questions, because one of the main things that we want to make sure that you highlight is you're still in business. And sometimes we have to make decisions at this stage to ensure that we get back on track, that we never actually fall off the horse when it comes to, getting our business, moving front and center. But let's dive into the business right now, of making an assessment of your overall business. So while Karen, Julio, and Raju, we were putting this together, we were actually trying to figure out what was the best course of action that a business needed to take. And one of the things that we said, okay, well, businesses need to make an assessment. They need to look at everything from their sales numbers to the products to the marketing in order to stop the bleeding, trim a lot of the fat, and discuss the burn rate. So the reason why we did this was because we wanted you to make sure that you take a bird's eye view of your business and where is it currently at right now, and what decisions do you need to make in order to get back on track. And when we say that, to Karen's point, we were talking about goals, that we still have goals that we still want to reach, whether it's bringing in new clients or whether it's coming in and bringing in new business. But the main thing is that you have to stay steady, but you definitely need to get a bird's eye view of where your business is currently at. And I know that when we were talking, Raju, you kept talking about the numbers, looking at the numbers, looking at every line item. So you can go ahead and elaborate a little bit on that.
Well, one of the things is obviously everybody is concerned on the sales number, but we need to dive a little bit more into it. And you got to look at the percentages, your gross margins, your overhead margins or overhead rate, because even though your sales number may have come down, you still need to kind of look at it from that. So you need to do a pre-COVID, during the COVID, and hopefully where you need to be post-COVID. So when you start looking at it, then you start looking at where you need to be or what changes you need to do in your margin. Don't look at the numbers. Whether you were selling $1 million, you're selling $300,000 today or 700,000. You need to look at it on a relationship on percentage base to make sure that you are on track. The dollars may confuse you. Percentages, as long as you're keeping percentages where you need to be, may be a key. Obviously, the other one is product. You may have to find out, you may find out you don't need as many SKUs or as many products or as many services. And you may be able to limit some of that and be more efficient in those areas or those products. And,
Yeah.
And,
yeah. And I think that's one of the main things right now when we talk about, because I mean, Julio, you're one of the businesses that actually, has not, stopped working because you are in the IT business. But I know that one of the key things is, when we were talking about, you still are making an assessment within your business to ensure that you continue to expand and grow. I mean, before we the call started, we were talking about, even looking at what the future looks like and bringing in new talent and bringing in new. But I think that that's been based on the assessment that you're currently making within your business.
Yeah, I think, like Karen, for us, really marketing, a lot of it was done word of mouth. And now for us, so we're not affected moving forward, a lot of our clientele has moved to a different model. So it's serving them differently. Now, during the migration for us from schools going from a brick and mortar to online, it created a lot of business for us, right? To help them transition there. But we don't know what that long-term effect is going to be. So we feel like the best thing to do is to invest in some marketing so that we don't feel the effects of maybe, or a negative effect, I should say, because maybe of some change that happens with the schools. But yeah, I think that it's looking at what your current clientele, how they've been affected, and then understanding how to meet that new need, I think is key.
Yeah, and that's great, because I think that one of the things that we've been encouraging businesses to do in order to let's say, stop the bleeding, look to see right now where you're spending money that you don't need to spend money. I mean, we do that at home. I got rid of cable a long time ago because I got sick and tired of just channel surfing. You know what? Because I never could decide on what it was that I wanted to see and so forth. But I do realize that a lot of times when it comes to businesses, you need to come in and look at what it is that you're spending money on and where you need to shift and change that in order to invest it, to your point, Karen and Julio, within the marketing. Because I think that that's one of the main issues that businesses right now are trying to figure out. But if you are not stopping and breathing and making an assessment, you're going to continue just going through the motion and spending money, because we've eliminated programs that we were paying for that we found out we hadn't used in years, but we were still paying for that membership and so forth. So Karen, I know that when we were chit-chatting, you have stayed steady within your business, but I know that you still are making assessments and working with a lot of clients that are actually asking for help and guidance in that assessment as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of our clients are doing this exact same thing, trying to figure out where they are and trying to hedge bets in terms of marketing. I actually just recorded a podcast or video cast, webcast yesterday for my supplement clients. And they're doing better than ever before because the whole world now realizes the need to be healthier, to not get sick. And so immune supplements are selling like crazy. And so it's really this same business assessment is part of what we were talking about in that webcast yesterday for the supplement industry is, figuring out what works and what doesn't work. Because even though you're selling, like Raju just said, some of your SKUs are not selling, maybe you're not pushing your diabetes supplement right now, but you're definitely pushing your immune ones. And so it's where do you put that money? Where do you invest in getting that content out on the web to let people find you that you have these supplements that are out of stock in stores, but you have them and you can ship them direct to consumer, for example. And so, yeah, there's so much here in terms of really digging in and seeing your business, your industry, really brainstorming what your customers need right now that you can offer them and really figuring out where to spend the money. in my business, we just sat yesterday, you know, my leadership team, we met and we said, okay, we're going to adjust some of our revenue goals for Q2. Obviously, Q2 threw a wrench in everybody's plans. We adjusted our revenue goals for Q2. We haven't adjusted Q3 and Q4 yet, but we are, you know, just trying to stay on track with our action plan for Q2 in terms of marketing and in terms of our systems. This is a really good time for us to revisit systems, make sure things are running more efficiently, and just improve so that when we hit Q3 or Q4 and sales do pick back up, maybe that we're really ready to handle that. And that's one of the things I'm telling people. If you have downtime, use it smart. This is the time to build new systems. We completely redid our website in the last 2 months, maybe 3 months. We completely revisited our whole email marketing campaigns. We've automated everything. We've spent a lot more money on those tools, but now nobody has to touch it. It just, until a lead comes in and we have to reply, we don't have to touch anything. It was totally worth doing. So those are the kinds of things I encourage right now.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, because I think that what's happening to a lot of businesses, the more that we sit down and we're talking about, businesses are going out there and they're trying to not only make an assessment of the business, but also looking at assessing the financial damage of what it is that they're going through. I know a lot of businesses right now, you know, they started looking at their current numbers, the overhead, you know, that Raju, you know, alluded to and talked about that, the operation, labor requirements and everything. But the one thing that I see where a lot of businesses are actually, you know, having a struggle with is they believe that the more money that they borrow, because we attended plenty of webinars and workshops with the PPP loan, the triple P loan, you know, with the EIDL loan and, you know, the Florida Bridge loan and so forth. But one of the things that we kept talking about, what you don't want to do is that you want to assess the damage right now that your business is in financially, if it is, but getting more money and borrowing more money is only going to come in and just put a Band-Aid over the problem if you don't come in and see where the bleeding is taking place and so forth. And I think that one of the key things is making sure that you understand your numbers. When we were actually setting this up, one of the things that Raju made mention of was the line item. I don't think that we actually look at every line item when it comes to your business and where you are spending the money, because the mindset for a lot of business owners is, oh, well, we have money in the bank, so we can go ahead and we can spend. No, how many of you as business owners are savers? How many of you are actually saving money for a situation just like this? I'm the saver. I love to save because I don't like to owe anything to anybody. Well, it's the same thing with the business, and it's the same thing with the model that we've been creating for years. So one of the things that we were looking at was, where are you allocating your funds right now? You know, operations, technology. If your employees aren't working in your place of business, but they're working from home, you know, I know that there's businesses right now that are saying, hey, we had a brick and mortar, now we realize that we can go online. So we're going to actually save money. So those are things that you actually have to ask yourself. And I know that as we were looking at Raju being the guru when it comes to finance, I mean, you give Raju just any type of document with numbers, and I think in 2 seconds flat, his computer goes dee 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 dee, and he can actually tell you what's wrong with with the financials. So Raju, when we were talking about this, you actually were we actually talked about the line items. I don't think a lot of people actually take into account. So if you can elaborate a bit more, go ahead.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I was watching the news this morning, and the CEO of Bank of America was on one of the interviews, and he brought up the topic of expense management, looking again line item by line item. And this is Bank of America is looking down each item. So it is, you know, this is how they have been able to even go and go through the process of this COVID-19 crisis. So the fact that you have to look at it line item by line item, see what you can do or not be able to do, and calculate your burn rate, which we covered in the previous slide. You have to look at your burn rate and how much capital you got. Remember, a lot of people got a lot of money now. I have clients who've got so much money in their bank account, they don't know what to do. They got money from all of these different federal agencies. And now they got so much money, they're saying, well, I can but they don't realize it that at the end they have to repay, they have to make good on that loan, and the business better carry them during this process, okay, and pay that loan.
Yeah, and I think that that's the main thing. It's like you have to know your numbers, and once you know your numbers, you know how you have to make those changes. Because right now, a lot of businesses that were doing fine, you know what, pre-COVID, right now they're going to get into financial damage because they're borrowing. They're not actually creating a game plan. They're not creating that assessment. So the overall goal is making sure that you do create that game plan, and relook at the numbers. Because I think that one of the key things also that you want to make an assessment is, what is it that you were charging and how much were you charging when it came to your products or your services? Make that assessment, because right now your overhead may not be as big because some of you are working from home and so forth. So those are things that you actually have to look at when it comes to the line items within your business. So I know that when we were chit-chatting, we were talking about that, Julio, when it came to, you know, borrowing the money, where we said we have to be wise. So if you can elaborate a little bit more of you know, some of the things that you're doing and so forth.
Yeah, I think, and we are one of those businesses that were lucky enough to get a PPP loan. And I think that to Raju's point, it's, you know, you can't look at that as revenue, right? Like, this is separate, right? And you have to run your business on the numbers without that. I think that a lot of us maybe in the small business sector get this false sense of security when you get that money in your bank account, right? And you see the numbers go up. But I think it's going back to the point of a line item is really taking the time to question, does this line item help me provide value to my client and serve my client, and challenge that, right? And then, you know, the same thing with the resources. Do I need to pivot now on the resources that I'm investing in? I think that you got to do that with your tools, with your people. Again, going back to the brick and mortar, do I need as much space, right? I think that especially, and Karen alluded to it as well, when you have this time where you can pause, right? Take the time to do these things, not to stay in this panic mode that some of us can get in because of the fear that some of us go through. So,
yeah. And I get it. This is your livelihood. This is your means to support your family, to help you know, pay bills and so forth. But I think that it's also being wise and making the right decisions when it comes to your business. And Karen, you talked about it, you know, allocating funds right now to the marketing. But I think that it's more than that. It's actually making sure that you create a game plan, because you need to look at the current situation, but plan for the future, because we don't know what the future actually holds. And I don't know anybody that's got, you know what, the crystal ball or anything, but if you can elaborate a little bit on how you actually started allocating and making that assessment.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm one of those business owners who's been saving for this. I didn't know what I was saving for, but I knew I was saving for a rainy day. You know, that's how I was raised. And the rainy day has come. Not that my business is really suffering. We haven't had to let anybody go. You know, nothing has really changed for us. We've taken a little bit of a revenue hit. We're not hitting our growth goal, but we're still maintaining. But when I looked at funds, there's things that I would have spent on before. We were looking pre-COVID pandemic at bringing in some additional administrative assistance. And we brought in one before, or right when this pandemic began, and we needed her, and we were holding on to her tight. But we're not bringing in any more right now, because we're looking at efficiency. So one of the people in my business, her specialty really is efficiency. And that's why she helps me run the business, because I'm not efficient, but she is. And so it's having that balance and knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. And I know my weakness is that I'm not good at creating these systems to be efficient, but she is. And right now she's looking at how are we using that executive assistant, because it's really her and I that share that assistant. and how are we using her time? What is she working on? Is she working on it efficiently? Because if we're going to pay out that payroll every month, let's make sure that her time is used to as many things as possible. So while we could be spending time doing other things, we think this is a really good time to get systems streamlined, get people well trained, so they're doing their job to the best of their ability as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. We're getting the maximum return from our payroll investment. So that's one of the things we're working on right now. To speak to your point though about the whole PPP and idle and all these things, we personally did not apply for PPP because we have savings, we don't need it. But one of the things I have encouraged people to do is look at money through the lens of grants versus loans, because there is grant money available. And I happily will apply for any grant that's out there that I'm eligible for, because grant equals free money. Loan equals repay with interest. No, thank you. So I think a lot of people have that confused and don't understand. And I understand that the PPP program may possibly have a loan forgiveness, element to it when it comes to payroll and so on, but that is not very clear to me. And I would not bank on that. Hence why I haven't taken that loan, because I don't need it and I don't want to end up having to pay it back with interest. But on the grant side of things, there are a lot of grants available right now. And we have been doing more grant applications than ever before for our clients. A lot of our small business clients are applying for money. Money is available everywhere. Foundations and institutions are giving out grants to small businesses like crazy. And so we have just been preparing grant application after grant application. And I encourage people to go after that grant money. It is free money. If you have time and you're sitting doing nothing right now, this is a really good time to find grants that your business is eligible for and apply for them. If you need help, reach out, let me know.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the main things right now that we've been processing it, because I mean, after this webinar, I mean, Raju and Jonelle and I were going to sit down and talk about the actual loan forgiveness aspect of the PPP. And I think that because it's in 11 pages of information and documents and so forth, it can get overwhelming. But, like I said earlier when we started, we don't want you to get in trouble. We want to make sure that you make the assessment necessary. Look at everything when it comes to your business, because I think that one of the main things that we want you to do is to thrive as you get back on track, and look at right now your current operations. You need to take advantage of, look at your processes. What you need to change, you need to make them, like you said, Karen, now everything is automated. Look at HR. How many people do you have that were vital, but they're not vital? Even for people right now that they're saying, hey, listen, I got the PPP. My employees don't want to come back because they're getting more money when it comes to unemployment. The thought right now of a lot of businesses when it comes to outsourcing. I know businesses that they actually are taking advantage and working with businesses or working with other companies, outsourcing things, or you're actually working with someone that's a virtual office assistant. Look at freelancers. You may have a project that you want to work on that you sit back and I'm like, I don't really need to bring someone full time. I just want to make sure that I tune up my operations. And once you do that, look at what new revenue streams you can generate when it comes to your business. Because I think, listen, this is the section that I love. I love to come in and review things. I look at new revenue streams because you can make money out of anything and everything. But one thing that you have to do is that you have to stop beating yourself because your business may not be selling that one thing that you were selling. Maybe it's because people aren't buying it. So what you might want to do is to look at the processes. People right now have become more simplified because they can order online and have things shipped to their home. Maybe that needs to be part of your operations. I think that during these uncertainties that we're facing right now, these times, it's imperative that you actually start reviewing your business and what your business entails for the future of your business, and especially success right now. Maybe you have employees that you had them in a role that was not a right fit, and now they're thriving in another area. Because I'm like Karen, I can come in and do anything and everything, but when it comes to come in and strategize something and move forward and do it, my brain functions in another level. And that's why it's extremely important to have dialogue and conversation to bring in the right talent when it comes to scaling your business, especially if you're going to pivot during this time. And I think that that was one of the things that we were chit-chatting and talking about, you know, Julio, that you were looking at your operations and making an assessment per se, saying, hey, I know that by the end of the summer, I'm going to have to hire someone else. So if you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, I think, and it comes from kind of one of the other bullet points, right? Like new revenue streams. For us, we identified that schools that for years have been solely brick and mortar are now moving into this, because of what's going on, where they're doing more of a hybrid model, right? Like they're looking at the fall that maybe they might have to do either two schedules in their brick and mortar, or have some sort of hybrid model where they have the brick and mortar, but still keep doing the online learning portion as well. So all of that, identifying all of that, we're looking at bringing another engineer by the end of the summer. And then the other thing was to bring in some admin help, which, like Karen, I've kind of put off because of what's been going on, but much needed. I think that with this, it's looking, the key that we look at is what's happening to our clients as a result of the pandemic, and understanding that maybe the way that I was servicing them prior needs to change. And then how can I package that and market that so I can continue to service them, you know, and take the opportunity, obviously.
Yeah, and I think that that's the main thing. And I know that you're good at actually looking at the current operation and so forth. And Raju, I mean, Raju, this is your specialty, because I know that aside from the finance, you love operations. It's everything. So it's like, I've never heard someone where it just flows out of them when it comes to the entire operations and so forth, and how things are connected. So if you can go ahead and talk about that, Raju, because I think that this is where I wanted to focus a little bit more time, because I think that this is where people are actually, they need to look at inside their operation. So
Usually operations takes about 60-70% of the capital of a company, of the revenue. So when you start looking at the operation, you start looking at human resources, you start looking at processes, how I can simplify things. Right now, using technology and using other means, you can reduce that, those processes, speed it up. You may not require as many human resources or people to do it, but you can pivot them to do other things within the organization to keep it at a more efficient place. Obviously, outsourcing has become a big thing. Was before. Now a lot of them may be able to outsource the accounting. They may be able to outsource some of the internal current operations, you know, certain segments of that operation they can outsource. Remember, at the end, you're still trying to bring down your cost of goods sold, which is your current operation, to a level that makes sense under the new norm. Your break even is going to shift, your overhead is going to shift. All you want to do is bring those numbers down temporarily, maybe, or for, you know, for long term, but at least start getting more efficient in those areas. And as the business comes back up, you may be able to bring some of those functions and functions back in-house. But temporarily, you do have to look at it. When you're doing new revenue streams, again, you need to look at it. What is going to require, whether it be HR or processes. Again, you need to look at it from that, and how much is it going to cost? How much is it going to add? And how much is it going to save you? Those are the kind of things that you need to start thinking about it. You do have some time if you still have not opened, and you can look at those functions and those areas to see how you can come back in a stronger way. Now, at the same time, don't start using all that money, like Karen said, because it is a loan you got to repay back.
yeah, and I'm glad that you said that, because I think that that's the main thing. To your point, Karen, they've been asking a lot of questions, you know, when it comes to the grant. And what I did was I actually answered. I gave them my email, so then once they get in contact with me, I'll go ahead and I'll put you in contact with them. Because listen, I've applied for a couple of grants myself, and I did that more so because I had the time. And I'm like Karen, I say for a rainy day, and we're in South Florida, and this week it's been raining all the time. So I think that that's one of the main things that we have to be ready for. So Karen, I know that your operations right now, that you don't have a brick and mortar, but you actually have, your staff is spread out, throughout the world. But I think that that's one of the main things right now, that even though you said, as you made mention of, you actually were not hurting, but you still went in and reviewed your current operations because you are planning ahead for the future and whatever may come. So you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, definitely. So for us, we've always been a virtual remote business. And so for me specifically, my team are PhD scientists like myself, medical doctors, naturopathic doctors, chiropractors, those types of healthcare professionals. In order to be able to write for the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry, we're very specialized. Now, to find healthcare professionals that are good writers is not easy. So to limit my business to South Florida only, in the beginning when I started 13 years ago, I tried it and it didn't work. I had a lot of writers here in South Florida that were flakes. They were not interested in real work. Their work ethic was crap. Their writing skill was crap. And I started working with writers all across the US because there are scientists and doctors that burn out from being in the labs, being in the clinics, the hospitals, and they're good writers. They enjoy writing. And that's how I started recruiting, using online means in the beginning, as simple as Craigslist and other websites. We've spread out to do that, but we've been able to hire very good talent all across the US for very good prices. And that's something I really encourage, looking at where the talent you need is, because it might not be exactly in your town. And if you're able to do work right now virtually, you might not need a bookkeeper who's local. I'll be honest with you, my bookkeeper is not local. My accountant is local. I do go in and sit in his office and talk to him and be like, Tim, help. But my bookkeeper is not local. But my bookkeeper and I, we talk on Google Meet, and we're fine with that. So, and I have a bookkeeper at a really good price. I have never been able to find a local South Florida bookkeeper that wants to charge me anything less than $30 an hour or something like that. So, these are things to explore in terms of who do I need to have in-house? Who can I recruit from other places? If you're able to recruit from other places, then you're able to shop not just by talent, but by price. And that's a really good way to cut your costs right now is, finding people. I'm not necessarily saying you have to go offshore. For some functions, some people are comfortable using virtual assistants and so on that are offshore or overseas, cheaper costs. I've done that over the years too. But I do have, like my writing team are all American, my marketing team, all American, except for like one Canadian, which I still consider to be American. So those are the things to explore. Like right now, Canadians will work happily for US companies because the exchange rate is favorable. So if we're paying $20 an hour here, they're making like 25 there in their currency because of exchange rate. So these are things to take into account. There's a lot of interesting things that can help you cut costs and still have as good or better people in those seats in your business when you're considering how to do it remotely, virtually. And there's just so many hiring resources out there. When I started this business, it was like a few little websites. Now it's like there's probably 20 different websites we use for recruiting. LinkedIn is a fantastic place to recruit. So there's so many options. So I say if you have the time, explore your options. Think of how you can lower your costs through outsourcing, switching to freelancers. The other thing on this slide that I love is the new revenue streams. I think we need to brainstorm. If you don't have other small business owners to sit with and brainstorm with, find them, join a group. Orlando and I are always willing to host groups and be a part of groups. And I know Raju will come in and tell you how to fix your business in a heartbeat. But get, even if you have to invest some money, this is the time to invest that PPP money and the grant money and all this stuff into the things that are going to make you money. Don't invest it in nonsense. So you've got to invest in figuring out if what I currently sell or I was selling pre-pandemic is not currently selling, what could I be selling? And figure out what new revenue streams are out there, even if you're still working. For us, we'd still been working for so many of our clients, but we pivoted still. We found with everything going online, like Julio was talking about, a lot of conferences and events and continuing medical education courses and so on that we normally write for a in-person presentation are being shifted to being online. And a lot of companies need help with shifting their content to get it written up for an online audience. And so we've shifted our marketing to really reach out to a lot of different organizations and associations and so on that were planning in-person events to say, hey, you need help shifting your content and pivoting it for an online event. This is what we do. Here's some examples of other clients we've done this for. I really encourage, looking in that direction and creating those new revenue streams.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing, Karen, because I think that that's the main thing that we want to encourage you to take an in-depth look inside yourself, your business, and to Karen's point, dialogue. I put together a lot of what we call now CEO Chingwag. And for those of you that don't know what the word is, you can look it up, but it's called a Chingwag. And it's pretty much a chat conversation. And I think that that's what we need as CEOs. Other CEOs that we can actually dialogue with and treat, the same manner, because it's not about coming in and impressing people with your titles. It's more so coming in and finding solutions to the problems or issues that you currently have right now. But we were talking about marketing, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because I'm going to go over it really quickly because Karen and Raju and Julio have actually talked about how their marketing has already been adapting and it's been changing and so forth. And I don't want to reiterate too much of that. And, when Brianna shares the presentation, we want to make sure that this is one of the key things to your business. Adapt your marketing. You need to shift and change it. If you were not doing something that was virtual in the past, this is the time that you need to do it. You need to make sure that within the content, you're actually sharing with your customers, what is it that you're doing, to make them feel comfortable, safe. I know that there's a restaurant that actually they were putting mannequins, in place of, in order to keep the safe space, some that are actually pulling curtains. But what we wanted to come in and highlight this, whatever it is that you're doing that's new, no line, no waiting. I know a lot of doctor's offices, my nieces, they're actually going to go get, their hair done and eyebrows and so forth, and they have to wait in the car, and then they're called in, because I think that one of the great things about this, going to a doctor's appointment and not having to sit down and wait, because they're going to usher you once they come in, and look at your social media. One thing that I actually wanted to highlight on this so that we can move on to the next slide was that times are changing and your customers are changing. So you need to evolve or you're going to stay stagnant. So what we are actually encourage people when it comes to the aspect of your marketing, the main thing that you need to do is call your customers. Let your customers know that you care. Don't come in and try to sell them anything, but come in and just have a conversation with them, because people are going to remember what you said, what you didn't say. So let's go ahead and actually go to the next one, because I think that I wanted to spend a little bit more time and I'm actually being conscientious of the time. So consider technology. By the time we're done with this, Brianna and I were talking before we got on that everyone is going to feel comfortable when it comes to technology. When we first started out, there was the etiquette of Zoom, what to do, what not to do. But right now we're also asking businesses, maybe you have a hybrid model that you're going to have a brick and mortar and maybe something that's online when it comes to your businesses. Listen, with the SBDC, we were doing a lot of workshops last year's programs, and we were getting ready to have a full, array of workshops. And we actually had to go to the technology side and start hosting webinars. And even now, I think that, to your point, Brianna, this is what, your 6th, 7th one that you've done. So it's coming in and making that assessment and so forth. But I think that once, you come in and realize that your business can grow by use of technology, that you can take advantage of that. So Raju, I know that we were chit-chatting and we were talking about a lot of this, and Raju's favorite aspect is actually technology, because he loves being in front of the computer. So if you can elaborate a little bit on that,
Okay, for me, the measure, the big point is measuring productivity. You need to be able to see that your people are doing what they are supposed to be doing. Before, in the brick and mortar, you will come into the office, everybody's working, you're looking at everything. If they were slacking off, you could tell them, or you could call their attention, or give them more work, or do things differently. Now, when you are remote, now how do you measure that? You can't be in the same location. How are you going to measure that? How are you going to see whether they're doing what they're supposed to be doing in a timely manner or in the proper way? And those are the kind of things that false insecurity that you had in the past, how you're going to do it today. If you find that model and you find the new processes and you create all of these new internal checks and balances, guess what? Now, when you do come back to the brick and mortar, those processes and checks and balances will still remain. Now you can do the checking and measuring the productivity while you are at home, while the people are on the brick and mortar. So, you have to look at it and use this technology to your advantage and see what you need to do internally. And obviously, being a productive guy or production person type, I will always like to measure everything. And obviously measuring productivity and getting to measure what is getting done and accomplishment, being done, it is. So that way your team, your remote team is working, and you can keep an eye on what's going on and be on top of what the business needs to be doing.
Yeah, and it's, measuring that productivity of what they need to actually be doing. And one of the things, it goes back to, HR, hiring the right person. If you are that boss that has to control everything that everybody does, then you don't have the right person in place. But there are systems that you can actually take advantage of. I know that Karen was alluding to, using Google, a lot, that platform and so forth. And I'm saving you, Julio, for last, because I know that this is your specialty, but I wanted Karen to elaborate on some of this, how you're actually running your business, using technology, because you've got so many staff throughout the United States and Canada, so
Yeah, this is definitely my stomping grounds. This is something that I've had to learn over the last 14 years, basically, of being in business and working remotely. And we use so many tools. The most important thing is finding the tools that work for your business. In the beginning, in my business, I had a really hard time finding a good project management tool, for example, because I felt like there were these things that were built for big businesses like Microsoft Project. And I was like, my business doesn't need Microsoft Project. Because if somebody's coming to me and they're like, hey, can you write this grant application, to use that example? We have a client, we're working on a grant application, it's due June 4th. We're going to be wham, bam, done. I don't need a Gantt chart. I don't need it. So it was, how do we find the tool that's right for what we need? And we tried out, I'm not going to lie to you, probably 10. At one point, I actually had one custom built for us. And even that one didn't quite meet every single need we had. And we kind of bumped heads with the developer a little bit, and we moved on to the next one. Currently, we use Asana. When we started with Asana, it was free. And that's a place where all of our writers get their assignments. I can see who's working on what, when the task is due dates. I can see it in a calendar view. I can see it in a list view. I can see it in a board. We put it into lists. Here's what's assigned, and we're waiting for the writer to return the draft. Here's drafts that we sent to the client. Here's ones that we got feedback from the client and they've requested edits. So the writer is editing, and we can see what stage every project is at. So that's what works for us, is Asana. But there's so many out there. Use something. There's so many collaboration tools we've used over the years, working with so many different clients, every different collaboration tool and project management tool. Because if our clients are using Slack and then they're sending us you know, or task assignments through Slack or Pipefy or, oh my goodness, Monday, or like we've used them all over the years. So I say just test stuff out. Document sharing is really important for us too. And we basically have all of our systems and procedures and templates and everything we use to run the business all documented in Google Drive. And everybody on the team has access to whatever they need in order to understand how to do their job. And documentation is really a huge part of what we do. As we bring on new people and we train them, part of what they have to do is document everything they've been trained on, so that they're documenting their own systems and procedures. And then we can look at that and fine tune it. But we can see, hey, as I trained you, do you actually understand what it is I'm telling you to do? Because if you're documenting it incorrectly, I know you didn't get it. So it's actually really good to let people document for themselves what their goals are, you know, the takeaways that they have from what you say. Because you say one thing, but they actually interpret something else. So here's what they think their job is. Here's what they think their goals are. Here's what they think the tasks they're supposed to be doing every day. And for like our virtual assistants, for example, and executive assistants, even, we keep, or they keep a spreadsheet where they have every single task they're working on. And I can see how they spent their day every day. And I can put things in there. Here's the new task for you. Or as I talk to them and assign things, I see them type it in there. So I love Google Drive. I mean, I can see them typing. They can see me typing. We work very collaboratively on a lot of things in there. Orlando and I use, you know, Google Drive to collaborate as we're creating curriculum and different things. So it's fantastic. If you have a remote business right now and you're brand new to it, just try out these tools. In terms of measuring productivity, our team, we always kind of work more on a results basis than on a time basis. But I understand that people need to get paid for their time. And so we've always used Toggle as a tool, which is just really where you can put in, here's the task I'm working on, and then track your time being spent. And then you can share that with your boss and they can see. But there's a ton of other tools that do the same thing as well. And so just a way for tracking hours and being able to see, I spent this much time on this task, this much time on this task, worked on this project for an hour. And it's a really nice collaborative tool as well for seeing those types of things. So that's all I have for now. But I could talk about this for hours for sure.
Listen, and I know, listen, this is how conversation starts. Karen, I have a question for you. I got 5 minutes. An hour later, and you know what, one of the key things that we were talking about is there's specialties out there. Julio, I know that your specialty is technology. One of the things that I always encourage businesses to do is that stay in your lane. Once you understand the value of what you bring to the table, and there's other people that understand, why do you want to come in when someone like, you know, Julio, you know what, understands. So whenever I have an issue, anything that's got to do with the tech side, I call Julio, we have a dialogue, we have a conversation. The key thing is building relationships. So Julio, if you can elaborate on you know, everything that we were talking about, you know.
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is I love to hear users like Karen, because what happens is that this is the importance, and I'll go back to a point that you guys talked about before, is peer groups, right? Peer groups within your own industry. We are part of them. They make us better together, right? And most of the time, because people get worried about competition and such, most of the time those peer groups take into consideration not putting you in competing markets, right? At least that's what happens with us. But having a user like Karen, what's powerful about that is that they make us IT people better. Why? Because at the end of the day, you guys, the businesses, are the ones actually using these applications, right? So I think it's important that whenever you're trying to choose one of these application solutions for your business, that you take the time to do the due diligence, right? To do demos for these different applications and see what actually fits your business. The other thing that we always try to tell our clients is make sure that you try to avoid a situation where you're having double data entry unnecessarily, right? That creates more work for no reason. And there are so many tools that can integrate through APIs that allow you to minimize that, if not eliminate that completely. Going to the hybrid model, you know, we've been forced into a situation now where if you weren't using technology, if you weren't using these tools that allow you to work remotely, you were forced to do it, right? We were able to take schools from a brick and mortar to basically online learning in a couple of weeks because of the tools that are out there, right? And I think it's important to now, especially, is that if you don't have, and I know that there's a challenge here, especially for small business owners, if you don't have a remote workforce currently, and you have the mentality of, well, anybody that I hire full time, I need them to be under my roof because I have to have an eye on them. Some of us small business owners, I took the journey of letting go and understanding that you can have people remotely and they will be productive. Going to Raju's point and to Karen's point, there are many solutions that allow you to track that productivity, right? Some of them are very simple. One of the examples that I talked to Raju about on one of our calls is if you're a data entry, if you have people that are doing data entry, well, you can make that distinction between what was happening, how much were they processing when they were under my roof, and then using that as a measurement on what they're doing from home. If they're not meeting those numbers, okay, why are they not meeting those numbers? And taking that approach. But there's also other pieces of software that exist and solutions that if you needed to track how much time the person was logged into your systems or in front of their computer, that you can track that. That is actually out there. And I think that definitely helps in these situations. As far as specific solutions for your company, I think that the key here is to understand where you can use. I'm not a believer in using technology just for the bells and whistles of it, right? Just to put something in place that maybe it's not going to make you more efficient. It's looking at your processes and then saying, where can I stick technology to make me more efficient or to automate a process so that I don't have to throw a body at that problem. And that's kind of the approach that we try to take. But there's so many tools out there. The beauty of the marketplace now with reference to web applications is that it really has gotten very boutique, right? So they are trying to serve the specific need of a specific vertical. And if you're able to make that match, it's a powerful match. So yeah, I think that's kind of, you know, adding to what Raju and Karen said. I think the deal is to do the work and go through the process and talk to other companies such as yourselves to maybe get a bird's eye view of what they might be doing that's actually working for them. I think that for me, in my experience, has been very, very powerful. So.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And listen, I know that we're running over time. We have one more slide that we want to go ahead and go through. I think that one of the key things right now, we just did a webinar a couple of weeks ago on taking your business virtual. And it was amazing how a lot of people had not considered that, you know, in moving forward. So the last thing that we actually wanted to talk about, you know, and I'm mindful of your time as well, is create a contingency plan. You know, one of the things that you need to start looking at right now within your business, a new financial model, sales process, plan for the worst, but you have to stay positive. I always tell business owners, give yourself an opportunity to mourn because you may have lost business, but you cannot allow that to discourage you. You need to sit back and realize why you started your own business to begin with, and how can you actually stay creative. And the other thing is, learn from other businesses. The key thing is that if you do not learn from other businesses, you actually have to evolve or you are going to stay stagnant. So I don't know everything, but I do know that when I talk to Karen, you know, Julio, Raju, you know, everyone else that I actually have in my, I guess, you know, a circle of business owners or friends, I want to learn from them, not to do what they do, but look to see where I can actually create an opportunity for all of us moving forward. So I think that right now, because of the situation that we're currently in, you always have to be, to Karen's point, save money for a rainy day. So let's go ahead and talk about contingency plans, and then we'll wrap up. And we've been answering questions in the Q&A. And if there's any other questions, be mindful and we will answer that. So go ahead and whoever wants to go first, to talk about a contingency plan. And listen, in a contingency plan is not going to the refrigerator, and opening the refrigerator, figuring out what you're going to eat. It's not sitting in front of the computer and ordering online. It's not actually selecting the movie that you're going to watch or the series that you're going to stream. It's making sure that your business right now stays on track in order for your success. So Raju, I know you were going to go ahead and start talking.
Well, the key point here I always say is at least have not a business plan, but have an action plan. Short-term action plan. That's the key point. Look at your new financial model. Why? Because it has shifted. It is going to shift. New revenue streams, new HR costs, new operational costs or reduction. So all of that is going to change. So have an action plan of how you're going to do. And if you're still having a high burn rate or you're still losing money, then you got to stay, okay, what am I going to do differently to bring this down? Maybe there are some expenses or expense management that you cannot get rid of, which is maybe the rent, it could be other things that are fixed that you cannot do that. So then you have to look at it in the long term, what you need to do to cover that break even, or at least get back to break even and go back above that break even. Other industries, I always like that, and I've been very fortunate and grateful that I've been in a lot of industries. So I do pull in what I did in one industry, and I pull it into the other industry, and I say, okay, it worked in that one. Why won't it work here? We obviously have to tweak it. We have to change it. We may have to tweak a little bit here and there to fit that industry or that business. We always try that. So I'm actually very grateful that I've been involved in a lot of different industries, so I can pull from my resources from the past and what worked in some places and did not work. Okay.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that's one of the main things right now looking at. Go ahead, Karen. I saw the unmute.
Let Julio go first.
Okay, go Julio.
No, I was just going to mention that I think that as far as a contingency plan for us, definitely doing sales and marketing on purpose is a big part of that, because it's an ever-changing market right now, right? It was that way always, right? Because always things evolve, but right now I would say it's more volatile. And I think that we would all agree with that, depending on what's going to happen in the near future, right? I think that that's part of it. The other thing that I love, and I've talked to Raju about it before, is we are lucky enough that we get to be exposed to the inner workings of other companies, right? Because we're working IT, and pulling what works from those to apply it in different situations is very, very powerful. And what I would recommend is look at your clients, the ones that are actually doing some things that you say, man, this company runs well, and see what might be working for them that may work for your own company. So yeah. I'll pass it on.
And listen, and one of the things that actually, I'm glad you said that really quickly before you answer, Karen. I've actually worked with Karen on a couple of projects. And one of the things that Karen actually has said, listen, go ahead and use, this person, someone that she's working with. And that person actually, I brought them on and they've worked with me on a couple of projects directly, because number one, I trust her, her assessment of people. Because I think that that's one of the main things right now, that you have to have a network of other businesses, other industries in order to share, and listen, if you are coming in and you're trying to hoard everything within your own business and you're not trying to share and elaborate, I love competition. Bring it on, because it allows me to show my clients and customers just how good we are. But I do believe that right now it's just learning from one another and taking on the attitude that, guess what, I don't know everything. There's people out there that know more than I do. So when I do need to, other staff or so forth, I always reach out to Karen. So go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, with this contingency planning, I think this is one of the most important slides, just because right now, like Julio said, things are changing every day. And you've got to, cater to both ends of the spectrum. Some people are willing to go out. They couldn't wait to leave their house. And some people are never going out ever again. Some people have already booked their cruise for August, and some people aren't going to travel for the next 5 years. And you've got to realize that you've got customers on both ends of that spectrum and cater to that. You've got to plan for the worst. One of the things that I've been working through, I was on a really good webinar yesterday that's a small business group that I'm a paid part of, and it was about scenario planning. And scenario planning is figuring out all of those worst case scenarios. What if the virus comes back worse than before and everything has to shut down again, and everything maybe has to be moved online permanently? Maybe it takes 5 years to get a vaccine in place, 10 years. What are we going to do in those scenarios? And, you know, just working through scenarios and having a plan, even if they never happen, I promise you, you will sleep better at night, knowing that you know what you're going to do if the crap hits the fan. And then learning from other industries, I try to look at what other businesses are doing and try to pull ideas from them. I shared in our last webinar that I was so impressed with Panera. Panera sent an email out real quick as soon as this pandemic started, and they took a revenue hit. They were sitting with food items that they get from their distributors that they can't sell. You know, they have bagels, bread, they have eggs, they have salad items, milk, cheese, you name it, cream cheese, whatever. And they're sitting with these items not selling because nobody's coming in to eat. So what did they create? Panera Pantry Delivery. Genius. You know, they have the items. You maybe aren't getting grocery delivery like for your area or whatever, or the store you shop at doesn't do that, or it's too expensive. Panera would literally deliver to you items that they had sitting in their store that they can't use because nobody's coming in to eat. And so when I saw them pivot, I said, you know what? That's amazing. And as I talked to other small business owners that were sitting in a similar position, what can you sell that you have sitting that's something that maybe you would use normally? Your inventory is part of your process, but now you could sell it like a retail item. And so there's so many pieces of nuggets of wisdom that you can pull in from a different industry, a different type of business. But I also encourage meeting business owners in the same industry. So I don't think of it as competition. There's unlimited money out there in the world, and I try to meet as many people as possible. They're in the exact same business that I'm in. So I have friends that also own medical writing businesses, and they're scientists, and they work for pharmaceutical companies, and we sit together and brainstorm. And it's, what are you using, Sherman? What is this, you know? And we talk, and we are happy to share, because I'm not going after his clients and he's not going after mine, because there's so many clients in the world. You know, it's fine. And just toss around, what tools are you using? I'm able to say, hey, we do this. And he goes, oh, I should try that. Expand your mind, you know, collaborate, work with other people. And then the other thing that everybody brought up, which is something that we're practicing and have been practicing for a while, is action planning. Before every quarter starts, we sit and create an action plan for the quarter. 3 items, never more than 3. These are our 3 focus areas: our biggest opportunity, or biggest threat, and then sometimes that third one varies, but always the biggest opportunity. And usually the biggest opportunity is in the marketing area for us. You know, the biggest threat sometimes is dealing with competition. It might be dealing with HR and training or whatever. But we create those 3 focus areas, and here's the tasks under those that we're going to get done this quarter. And we put dates and we put names, and we have it live in a spreadsheet in Google Drive, and everybody involved checks in with that every week, and they know what they need to move to the next step. And that's how we get things done. You do not get things done just by a prayer and a hope and a wish and creating a list and then put it in a drawer somewhere. It doesn't work. So you have to have an action plan that's constantly evolving, constantly changing. Every quarter is brand new. Every quarter is a 90-day sprint. Don't try to run a marathon with your business. This is a sprint, 90-day sprints. Anybody in the tech field that knows Agile will understand what I'm talking about. That's my rant for now.
Yeah, no, and thank you for that. I think that that's one of the main things that we've been talking about. You know, one of the things that I've sat back and I looked at my business and how my business grew. My contingency plan has always been partnering with other businesses. It's always been working with other like-minded people. And like I said, like-minded. They don't necessarily have to be in the same industry, but I do work with people in the same industry that are like-minded, because at the end of the day, you know, to everyone's point, there's money out there, but you have to make sure as a business owner, you stay in your lane and know what your strengths are. When you come in and you start offering anything and everything, because I've seen people where they're pivoting and their contingency plan is to create something new. Well, is that aligning up with your business and what your business does? You know, to Karen's point, when she made mention of this last time, I said, oh, okay, good, Panera's. So when I look at the Panera pantry and I'm like, oh, they're selling everything. I don't have to get out of my house and I can have it delivered. Wow, that's awesome. And I think that that's one of the main things that as business owners and as individuals, we need to know what are the needs of the businesses. That's why calling your customers, communicating with them, and asking questions, it's ideal in order for us to come in and help one another. Because what you're building right now is something that's short term because of COVID. But this short term is going to help you in the long term, especially when it comes to growing your business. The one thing that I can give you permission to create. I can give you permission to do. The one thing that I will not give you permission to is to sit idle and for wait to things to fall on your lap. You need to come in and remember that hustle that you had when you first started, that energy, that passion that you had when you started your business. And you need to come in and tap into that same passion of when you started, to come in and do a lot of the same things. Yeah, we may be at a whole nother level, but it's just changing the way that we think. So build a network of people, talk to other people, build relationships. And I'm just gonna leave this there for any questions that people may have. We've gotten a lot of questions about us sharing the presentation. Absolutely. We will be more than happy to share. Brianna has that. And one thing that we want you to start doing is start planning now. Start making an assessment. Where's your business at? So let's go ahead, and if there aren't any questions, or if you start, I want to give everybody an opportunity to just give final thoughts, you know, just to wrap up and so forth, because I know we went a little bit over, but the conversation was extremely good. And thank you for everyone that actually stayed with us. So I want to go ahead and give everybody an opportunity to share your thoughts, you know, and that's why I actually left this here so you can see this. So you can go ahead. I'm not going to start selecting people or picking people, but if you want to go ahead and start, Raju.
Well, taking that example of Panera Bread, okay? Now they pivoted that in the short term or long term. We don't know that yet. They're going to assess it sometime during the next couple of months, when maybe when the whole thing opens up, maybe that pantry idea or concept may die down, or they may continue it. We don't know that, but they did pivot. They did look at it. They brought some revenue. They kept some people on staff. So all of those things, when we talk about pivoting, it could be short term, or it could land up being a process or a new revenue stream that you didn't think before, and you can carry it forward. So you do need to think outside the box, be positive, obviously, and be mindful of how much you are spending and what you're creating in the process. Maybe you hit another revenue stream that could be long-term. Maybe it just works short-term. That's fine. It's not a problem. Either way, it's good.
Wise words, Raju. Thank you. Julio.
Yeah, I'll go back to one of the bullet points that it had in the prior slide of stay creative, right? Like I love what you said about tapping back into that reason, the why, right? The Simon Sinek why, tapping back into that and staying creative and being passionate about how you move forward in this. I think that's kind of what we've tried to do as a company, right? Is understanding why I got into this in the first place, and trying to get that energy as I move forward and being creative about how we service our clients, right? That's why I became an entrepreneur, to have this freedom to create a business as I saw it in the vision of what I saw and the people around me. So yeah, that's it.
And listen, just imagine, and this is where I come in and I'm creative. Just the thought of having to go work for someone else. Can I do it? Will I want to? No. But this adventure called being an entrepreneur, it's too amazing in order to give it up. So what do? You sit back, you create, you stay creative. And if you are not creative, give me a call, because I've got creativity, you know what, to share it and give, you know, and I think that that's one of the main things that as business owners, we have that same mindset. So thank you, Julio. So Karen.
Yeah, I agree with Orlando. If you're not creative, reach out to somebody who is. We have a SBA CEO group, for example, and even though, you know, that's a membership kind of club, but it comes with its perks, and, you know, just being able to get together and talk with people. And we've been able to help so many people get unstuck by just saying, you know, what else could you be doing? What do people need right now? What do your customers need right now? How do you reach out to your customers, communicate with them? Right now, we're doing a ton of marketing, and this is not the time to use the marketing messages we used to use. There's no, hey, how you doing? You know, we can offer this service. This is, hey, are you okay? Because a lot of people are not okay. You know, alcohol and drug abuse through the roof, depression and anxiety medications through the roof. So, I mean, just genuinely caring in your marketing message is where we begin. Are you okay? Are you guys still working? Do you need anything? Can we help in any way? And just to get the dialogue going. And then once we hear that they're okay and they're still working, then we can have a conversation about how we might be able to help them. Because just running in all hot and heavy, hey, I'm going to sell you this. This is not the time. And that is not the marketing message to use. So I think this is a time to be creative. This is a time to be sensitive. This is a time to be caring, to be giving, letting your customers know how you're giving back in the community, how you're participating, how you're responding. Yes, we're open. Or yes, we're planning to reopen. Here's, you know, we care about you. We care about your health. We know your concern. Here's the measures we are taking. We wrote recently a safety guide, because a lot of people don't know how to reopen safely. And there are a lot of points in there in terms of cleaning, sanitizing, disinfecting, considering, you know, configuration of desks and who's allowed to move around where, and are customers coming into your office? What are you doing? And we've helped a lot of our clients think that stuff through. A lot of people need that safety guide has been really key in helping a lot of businesses reopen safely and communicate to their customers, here's what we are doing. Here's what we've put in place to keep you safe. And those are the kinds of things, and this stay on top of the trends, that bullet point is key. Because things are changing daily. And I'm not saying binge watch the news, because I don't watch the news at all. I might catch it once a week. It's too negative. But you need to stay on top of trends. One of the things we've had our virtual assistants doing is looking at what's happening with our customers. Here's what's happening in the news with Johnson & Johnson, Abbott, some of the big companies, some of the big healthcare providers, supplement industry. We have a ton of supplement clients. We need to know what's happening so that we know what they're dealing with, so that we can effectively communicate with them when we're talking to their marketing director. We don't want to come in blind. We want to be able to say, hey, I know that you guys took a hit with this, and I know that this isn't selling right now. How can we help you respond to that? Coming in with an educated suggestion will get you really far. Coming in hot and heavy, just, hey, we're here to sell you something, doesn't work right now. So that's my key takeaways. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you. And listen, I've been answering all of the questions and so forth, but Tina, I wanted to go ahead and share this because I wanted the panelists to know. So Tina said, great content, strong panelists. This has been the best webinar I've participated on throughout the pandemic, and I've been Zooming so much, she's dizzy. I get it. And these are game-changing times, and her husband and she are so excited for the opportunities coming to light every day. So congratulations, Tina, and thank you for your kind words. One thing I will let you know that next week on Tuesday morning, we're actually doing a webinar, same format. It's going to be guerrilla marketing right now. And then next week, Thursday, we're actually doing one on the government is still buying. For those of you that are looking to do business with the federal government. So I would encourage you to actually come in and register if you have not registered for those. One thing that I am actually developing right now, we've been talking about, is we did something a couple of weeks ago, Take Your Business Virtual. And I think that that's one of the main things that people are looking right now. What are the programs? I know to Vincent's point, he was actually wanting to know what would be the best programs, platforms, and so forth to actually, use technology. And I think that one of the main things that we as business owners, what we have are opportunities. And I think that every day when I wake up, I come in and I'm like, well, what's the new opportunity right now? And my business has actually scaled with a lot of the webinars that we've been putting together because I've been doing this for 5-6 years. And now it was just a gradual growth for opportunity. So thank you, everyone. If there aren't any more questions, I want to be mindful of your time. Apologize for going over, but I think the information was great, was awesome. I want to thank the panelists. I want to thank Raju, Julio, Karen, and thank you, Brianna. Brianna will make the presentation available to everyone. I think that this is one of the main things we want to make sure that we assist and help everyone. And we will be doing these webinars more often, the same format. I really enjoy this interaction with my friends and having a conversation of sorts where we all can share. If you are actually coming in and you need, what guidance and so forth, like I said earlier, and Brian mentioned the SBDC, they do have the consultants that can assist and help you. But we are going to be working on that, Chris. We are going to be working on a webinar, Take Your Business Virtual. That's something that we already have finalized. We just need to put it on the schedule. And there's a couple of other things that we're working on. Let me let you know that opportunities is we actually are doing one on how to pivot during COVID-19 as well. And that's going to be a dialogue conversation and what some businesses have actually done. And Karen, Macarena, and Tasha, we did the Trim the Fat marketing during COVID. And we actually just put one together and we titled it Open for Business. So what is it that you actually have to do now when it comes to your marketing to actually help your businesses? So these are some of the things that we're working on right now. And any other ideas that you may have that you may be interested in learning a little bit more, please feel free to email me. I'll be more than happy to put some stuff together and see how we can continue helping you. Remember, we're South Florida. We're resilient. We've been through hurricanes. We've been through this rain right now, and we can do anything and everything. We just need to put our thoughts and our creativity together. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Brianna. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to say, or if we want to just go ahead and just close out.
I just wanted to mention, so in the thank you email, I'll include the presentation. I'll have it attached. And also we do upload all of these webinars to our YouTube page. It's FIU Entrepreneurship. So if you want to view this webinar again or view any of the other offerings that we've had in the past, you can definitely check those out. And that's it. That's all I wanted to mention.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any one of us. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.